Well, good afternoon. Good to be here again. Earlier today, I was looking up the word whosoever. I was reading a devotional on Charles Spurgeon, and it just come into my head that I wanted to find out a little bit more on the subject of whosoever. It was used by the Lord about 80 times throughout the four Gospels. I wrote some stuff down here. I'm going to try to be as quick as I can. It's a personal invitation to all who hears him. The word whosoever. He gives man that choice, meaning whether you choose to believe or not. He defines true love. That word whosoever to me sort of defines what true love is all about. I mean, God did everything that he could do to make sure that man would totally get and understand what he was allowing man to do far as making a choice. It's like reading a menu. Now, I wrote this stuff down. I'm going to try to be quick if I can about it. On a menu, you see the selections with your eye. Your mind is deciding on what you want to eat. You then pick, and then you wait 5 or 10 minutes for the food. You pick what you eat before. I don't know of anybody that has ever went to a restaurant that tried something totally new. Usually you usually eat what you are used to eating. You already know how it's going to taste before you order it. Well, you know, the Christian chose Jesus. They made a decision to choose Jesus. The lost has not tasted Jesus. They don't know nothing about Jesus. But here's the thing. All has been invited. I'm reminded of the story in the Bible. I think it's in Luke chapter 14, I believe. There was 3 people that was in this story. This man had made a big supper. He had went all out. He had told his servant, I want you to go and invite these 3 men. So this servant goes and invites them, but they make an excuse. So he goes to one. That man made the excuse that he just got married. He couldn't come. Then he goes to the one that bought the property, and he couldn't come. And then he goes to the other one, and I'm trying to remember off the top of my head he bought 5 head of oxen, and he had to go and test them. And this man here that made the supper, he didn't give an RSVP. Matter of fact, it was very short notice because he had planned a meal and he had the meal that evening, and that afternoon or that evening is when he told the servant to go tell him. So he gets back and he says all them made an excuse. So the man said, go and tell the lame and the halt and the blind to come and eat. And I think that the servant did what he asked him to do. And then the man made a comment. He said, you know, them 3 that were bidden to come, that's what the Bible uses, the word bidden. they was bidding to come, the man made a comment and said, that person, them 3 people ain't going to even taste of my food. They're not going to even have the option of smelling the aroma of my food. This man here went all out to make a food that was going to be enjoyed. And, them people that were the lame, halt, and the blind, they ultimately end up enjoying themselves. They did. They enjoyed themselves. The Christian chooses Jesus. Now, I'm reminded of that story that I just told. Them men all had one thing in common. They all made an excuse. But I was reading up on that story, and I come to realize that the man that bought the 5-headed oxen had bought them sight unseen. Meaning he didn't really know what he was buying. He just bought something to be buying them. The man that bought the property didn't ever see the property because he had to go and wanted to check it out. And then the other man that got married, he made the excuse, well, I got married and I can't go because I got married. Well, what would have happened if all 3 of them men would have preferred that man that made the supper? Evidently, the man that made the supper must have known these 3 men to get the servant to go invite them. And, I want to think that Jesus knows who his people is that know him, but he also knows the ones that are lost. He knows the ones that are lost. Satan wants us to select the foods that he's wanting us to eat. Them 3 men, they chose their life. They didn't choose the life of going to where the supper was. They all made an excuse. One couldn't go because he got married. The other one couldn't go because he bought a plot of ground. And then the other one went and had to go test out his oxen. Could the Lord have blessed the man that would have been willing to give up the marriage for one day to go to the supper? Could the Lord have blessed them oxen to do double work had the man would have put the Lord first over them bunch of animals? That man that bought that land, do you think that the Lord could have allowed that man to receive a blessing from that property that he bought had he would have put the Lord first? Now, I realize this is a parable. But you know what? That's exactly what's going on today. See, when you get to the restaurant, you see the selection. Do you think Satan knows how to give us a selection? Sure he does. It might not be of a selection of food, but I can tell you, he makes a great selection for us. Your mind is deciding. He knows what you're going to decide. Satan knows what you're going to pick from. You then pick, and then you wait for it to come. Satan knows how quick that you're entertaining his thoughts and his process. He knows how long you're going to wait. He knows whether a person is lost or whether they're saved. You pick what you eat before. I'm not going to go and get something that I've never eaten. That guy that made that supper, he went all out. I bet you he had everything under the sun. I'll stick my nose up to certain things. I don't like liver. I don't like gizzards. There's just certain things that I just don't care for. I don't like the taste of it. Maybe I'm not a member of the Clean Plate Club. You already know it's going to be good when you taste it because you've tasted it before. See, people that are lost has tasted that the fact that Satan is the only thing they can follow. And Satan is the only thing that is feeding them. It's the only thing they're eating on in the cares of this life. But you know what? That man told the servant, look, them three is not going to even be invited to my supper. Now let me get to what I've been trying to say. The Christian chose Jesus. Now the Christian made the decision to know Jesus. They was lost before they knew the Lord. But they ended up with the idea that, you know, the Lord must love me enough to come and show me salvation. And that's exactly what the Lord did. The Lord showed people that are believers in him, they have been given salvation. The lost has not tasted Jesus. They probably wonder what it would taste like to really know this Jesus. But they haven't selected him. But here's the thing, all has been invited. He made an invitation for them three men to come to that supper, but they didn't want to go because they had something better to do. Maybe you've been invited to the marriage supper of the Lamb, but you're going to turn him down. You're going to think of some reason that you can't attend and you can't go. You know, this man made a wonderful supper. I can only imagine what it would look like. But when he told the servant to go get the lame and the halt and the blind, I think the Bible stated that they actually come and participated. I bet they got their belly full. They was glad to go because they probably was poor and they didn't have a lot of money. And so this guy here was willing to feed people. And you know what? Jesus is willing to feed. I was thinking of the song earlier today, Come and Dine. It's an old song in the Red Book. I believe it's page 110. I believe it is. Come and dine. The Master calleth, come and dine. But yet people stick up their nose. People says that they don't really want the Lord. Well, I wrote down a bunch of scriptures. I'm just going to call them out to you. I don't have time to read them. Matthew 7:24. Matthew 18:4. Mark chapter 3 and verse 35. Mark chapter 8 and verse 34. Mark chapter 10 and verse 15. Luke chapter 9 and verse 24. Luke chapter 12 and verse 8. Luke chapter 14 and verse 27. And then on the book of John, John 3, 15 and 16. And John chapter 11, verse 26. And the last one that I wrote down is in the book of Acts. And this man, Luke, is the one that wrote the book of Acts. Acts chapter 2 and verse 21. I wish I would have had time to have read some of the scriptures to you. But every one of them scriptures that I picked out has the word whosoever. I want you to know that the Lord is inviting you to the marriage supper of the Lamb. That means that he's preparing a place to feed his people. And the only people that are invited are the ones who are born again and the ones who are saved. If you're out there tonight and you don't know Jesus, I want you to know that he has given you an invitation. He wants you to come to him. He wants to love on you. He wants to show you just how much love he can show you. He wants you to see all the benefit package that he has just for you. But see, them 3 men were bidden to the supper, and they decided to make excuse. What excuse are you going to make? You going to say you didn't know? You going to say that maybe I'll do it later on? No. You need to take care of it, and you need to take care of it today. See, we don't know when that marriage time is going to take place. That man that made that supper didn't give no appointment time. He just sent the servant to go get them right then. There wasn't no invitation or nothing. He was already making the supper. He didn't wait on their permission to come. He already done started the meal way before he ever started inviting people. You know what? Jesus is allowing me to come out here tonight to invite people to come to his table. And he wants you to come and dine. Now, you know what? We're talking about food here. I don't know what heaven's going to be like. But you know one thing I am glad of? I'm glad of the whosoever. I'm glad that Jesus used the word whosoever. God didn't make me a robot. He used the word whosoever. Do you think the Lord knows who's going to be in heaven? He sure does. He knows who's going to be in heaven. And he knows who's going to listen to this message. I appreciate y'all watching. Thank you again.